Okay, let's dive in. You know those days where it feels like the news isn't just happening, it's really piling up?
Oh, definitely. Like major events are unfolding all at once across different areas.
Mm-hmm.
Immigration, trade.
Yeah, security too. It's a lot to process.
It can feel less like separate stories and more like, well, a whole interconnected system shifting.
Exactly. And that's why we're taking a deep dive today, looking closely at a USA Today news briefing from June 12th.
Right.
Our mission here is simple: cut through that noise, pull out the most important insights, and maybe see how these different pieces fit together. What's happening here at home and how it connects globally.
So we'll be touching on some key things from that briefing, specific immigration incidents and the protests that followed.
Hmm.
Also, some big moves on trade policy, updates on military safety. Yeah, the source detailed operations targeting undocumented farm workers specifically. Across the state, it seems.
And the details reported are pretty stark, right? Mentioning entire families detained.
Entire families, yeah, including children.
Yeah.
And concerningly, the report mentioned they lacked access to basics like food or water during the detention process.
Wow. And what makes this particular situation maybe different, according to the source, is this alleged link back to Stephen Miller.
Exactly. The briefing connects it to a supposed detention quota. It suggests these weren't just, standard enforcement, but maybe driven by hitting specific numbers.
Which, if that's accurate, raises some pretty big questions about methods and priorities behind the enforcement.
Absolutely. And not surprisingly, these actions apparently sparked a big reaction. The briefing says nationwide protests flared up against this kind of expanded immigration enforcement.
Right, and things got particularly tense in Los Angeles, didn't they?
Very. The source mentioned deploying the National Guard and even Marines.
So, a significant federal presence.
Yeah, and it highlighted this sort of dual nature to the protests. On one hand, peaceful demonstrations.
Okay.
But on the other hand, the briefing also noted serious disruptions like freeways blocked, vehicles set on fire, and growing tension between citizens and federal forces.
Which leads to that central debate the briefing pointed out.
Exactly. Is this primarily about lawlessness, or is it a legitimate, if sometimes messy, expression of dissent? The force sort of presented those as the competing narratives surrounding the events.
Okay. Let's shift gears a bit from that domestic friction to the global economic stage. The briefing also had some key updates on trade.
It did. It reported on a new U.S. framework with China, notable for including pretty hefty tariffs. 55% was the figure mentioned.
55%, wow. But also easing some student visa rules.
Right, kind of a mixed bag there.
Mhm.
And the markets apparently reacted with some uncertainty. Stocks dipped a bit, according to the report. It shows that combination of pressure and slight openness creates unpredictability.
And closer to home. Anything on Mexico and Canada?
Yeah, based on Reuters reporting included in the briefing, it sounds like Mexico and Canada are getting close to a deal.
A deal involving.
Quota-based relief from those 50% steel tariffs. So instead of just a tariff percentage, it limits the amount of steel allowed in tariff-free. A different approach.
Interesting. So quotas rather than just tariffs across the board. And then there was a court ruling, too.
Yes, adding another dimension. A federal appeals court upheld Trump's broader, sweeping tariffs during an appeal.
So even as new deals are maybe being worked out, the existing tariff structure got a judicial thumbs up, essentially.
It's fascinating, isn't it? You see all these different tools being used at once: high tariffs, visa adjustments, quota deals, and court battles reinforcing old policies. It's complex.
Definitely a lot happening on the trade front. Now, speaking of policy having real-world effects, the briefing also touched on military safety and global security.
That's right. There's an important update connected to that helicopter crash near the Pentagon back in January.
A fatal one, yeah. What's the
Okay.
change?
Well, the Army is reportedly making changes, specifically curtailing VIP helicopter flights right around Reagan National Airport, and also tightening up training protocols.
And the briefing mentioned Senator Moran had raised concerns before.
It did. It noted he'd previously cited lax safety standards,
Hmm.
suggesting maybe this wasn't totally out of the blue. A tragic catalyst for change, it seems.
A sobering point. Okay, moving geographically now, the Middle East. Some signals of heightened caution there.
Yes, definitely. The briefing stated that in response to increased tensions with Iran, the U.S. ordered non-essential diplomatic staff to leave posts in Baghdad, Bahrain, and Kuwait.
Those specific locations, Baghdad, Bahrain, Kuwait, that sends a pretty clear signal about where the U.S. sees potential risk related to Iran.
Precisely. It points to areas of immediate concern.
And finally, there was a quick mention of the AUS Pact.
Right. Australia specifically reaffirmed its commitment to AUKUS, that security deal with the UK and US,
Yeah.
the one involving nuclear subs.
And that affirmation is significant because
Because it came even while former President Trump was reviewing the pact. It suggests maybe some key allies are staying the course, regardless of potential political shifts down the line.
Yeah.
Shows a certain stability there, perhaps.
Okay, so when we step back and look at all these threads from the briefing, immigration raids, the protests, the complex trade moves, military safety adjustments, the diplomatic shifts in the Middle East, the AUKUS commitment,
Yeah.
it really paints a picture, doesn't it? A domestic scene dealing with tough enforcement questions and dissent, alongside a very active, shifting global posture from the U.S.
Absolutely. If you try to connect the dots, these aren't just random headlines. They seem to be responses to different kinds of pressure. Alleged quotas, global threats, market forces, safety failures. It shows policy being actively shaped, challenged, and changed on many fronts, all at the same time.
So this deep dive, drawing just from that one June 12th briefing, covered quite a range. Those farm worker raids and the resulting protests, the trade deals and terrorist tangle, changes in military flight safety, and those key diplomatic and alliance moves concerning the Middle East and AUKUS.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener. Consider this. How might these headlines, which seem pretty separate on the surface, how might they actually be interconnected? Are they pieces of a larger evolving strategy for U.S. policy, both at home and how it positions itself in the world?
Definitely something to think about, looking beyond the individual stories.